A long time ago, Iowa farmers didn't worry about weeds and erosion. Except for small fields, the prairie took care of itself. But if you're a farmer or a roadside manager in Iowa today, you've got to be concerned with weeds and erosion. Roads surround almost every square mile in the state, and it's not always clear where fields end and roadsides begin. Weeds certainly don't recognize the boundary. Erosion doesn't either. This videotape is about low-maintenance roadsides. It explains how farmers and roadside managers can help roadsides better take care of themselves. The system is known as Integrated Roadside Vegetation Management. It combines ancient ecological relationships of the prairie with modern ideas of integrated crop management. You'll learn how to evaluate roadsides to diagnose weed and erosion problems and how to avoid management practices that disturb roadsides. We'll explain the essentials of mowing, spraying, and burning to manipulate vegetation, and we'll discuss techniques for establishing new seedings. Weeds and bare soil are symptomatic of roadside problems. Killing weeds is easy, and bare soil can be covered, but IRVM attempts to eliminate the disease instead of merely treating the symptoms. The first step is recognizing problems and determining causes. An inventory of weeds and erosion by a state or county roadside manager could be a big help at this point.
And so now, instead of seeing the water flowing across as a sheet erosion, it is got a definite channel, and it's starting to form gullies back up into this.
A guide to common weeds, like this pamphlet published by the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, will help you recognize weeds and decide what conditions allow their growth. The presence of weeds can mean a stand of grass is weakening, in the same way a declining alfalfa field is invaded by weeds. Although some stands last longer, cool season grasses like smooth brome, timothy, and orchard grass are often vigorous for only 8 to 10 years. After that, you have to start spending time and money to keep them healthy. Some of the techniques we'll discuss can bring vigor back into declining grasses without the expense of a complete roadside overhaul. Thick stands of annual weeds are indicators of roadside erosion and sedimentation. Erosion within the roadside might be caused by a weak stand of grass that no longer holds the soil. But most often, erosion starts on adjacent farmland and fills roadside ditches with soil. This sedimentation costs many counties over $70,000 every year. Money spent cleaning ditches that probably fill up again. Farmers also pay dearly for erosion. Costs in lost productivity and increased need for fertilizer can exceed $5 per ton of soil lost. Fields that cause problems are losing well over 10 tons per acre every year. If your topsoil is plugging ditches, ask the Soil Conservation Service about soil-saving practices that keep your soil from becoming someone else's problem. Encroachment into the roadside by tillage implements and sprayers also causes bare soil that can lead to weed problems. Farmers can eliminate these problems by leaving a few feet of field border and by allowing for overspray. Recognizing good roadside vegetation is just as important as recognizing bad. Prairie plants continue to grow in many roadsides. They're well adapted to the climate and soil in Iowa, and once a healthy stand is established, they'll hold the soil and compete with weeds indefinitely. Low maintenance is the main reason roadside managers use native seed, but the tall grasses and wildflowers also provide the best wildlife cover and make the most attractive roadsides. There may be just a few wildflowers or 1 or 2 clumps of grass remaining, but if they're there, they've been there for a very long time, and they have thousands of seeds stored in the soil. A little encouragement with techniques explained in this video can revive a prairie plant community. Common roadside prairie grasses include big blue stem, Indian grass, and prairie cordgrass. Wildflowers that are often accused of being weeds include coneflower, prairie sunflower, compass plant, and blazing star. A guide to native plants is a valuable tool. After you've taken stock of the roadside plant community and the factors influencing it, you need to decide what action, if any, would improve it. Often there is enough good vegetation remaining that some careful management can bring back a healthy roadside. Mowing, spraying, and burning are all methods of manipulating roadside vegetation short of complete reestablishment. But without careful planning, they can cause more problems than they cure. Mowing is the most abused roadside management technique. Roadside vegetation that's left to grow tall becomes strong and crowds most weeds out of the plant community. But repeated close mowing allows light to reach annual weed seedlings and weakens desirable plants by reducing leaf surfaces where they take in light to survive. Roots die back, leaving room for weeds to grow and erosion to begin. Scalping the road edge with mowers or road graders leaves a strip of bare soil where common ragweed, foxtail, and other weeds can take over. The only time mowing helps to improve the plant community is during the establishment year on new seedings. In this case, mowing can remove annual weeds and allow sun and moisture to reach the young plants. Correct mowing leaves at least 8 inches of stubble, so weeds are still shaded and desirable plants can recover more easily. For weed control, mowing is most successful when it is done just as weeds begin to flower. Mowing weeds before they flower leaves them with enough energy to start over. Mowing weeds after they've flowered and begun to set seed is obviously too late. Spraying has also been greatly overused in roadsides. The old practice of broadcast spraying every year or two weakened plant communities by eliminating diversity and creating a better environment for weeds. IRVM doesn't eliminate spraying, but uses it as a control measure on tough perennial weeds where they're a problem, rather than as a preventative measure on all roadsides. Spot spraying can be a simple, safe, and economical way to control weeds, as long as you carefully read and follow herbicide labels. The Iowa pesticide law enforces the instructions and restrictions on the label. For most weeds, one herbicide application in the fall is best, because that's when plants are translocating energy to their winter root reserves. They'll translocate the chemical as well. Spring spraying can be used to kill weeds that survive the fall attack, and also for spring annuals, like velvet leaf and foxtail. For information on equipment and chemicals that are best for certain roadside weed problems, contact your county roadside management office, the Iowa Department of Transportation, your county extension service, or a local chemical dealer. To keep spot spraying as safe as possible, remember some simple rules. Again, read and follow the instructions and restrictions on the label. Pay close attention to overspray. Don't spray if there's more than a 5-mile-per-hour wind. Position yourself upwind of the spray nozzle, and don't walk through the weeds you've just sprayed. Wear the proper clothing. Read labels to see what's required for particular products. Have something on hand to thoroughly flush eyes with water in case of an accident. If you don't have one of these eye flushers, use a hose. Most accidents occur while people are mixing chemicals and loading sprayers. Extreme caution must be taken when mixing pure undiluted products. Remember, Iowa law prohibits mixing herbicides in the road right-of-way. Triple rinse pesticide containers and pour the rinse water into the tank. The label has instructions enforced by the Iowa pesticide law for cleaning and disposing of containers. The Iowa Fertilizer and Chemical Association accepts properly cleaned containers for recycling at 35 landfills. Call the IFCA at 515-262-8323 or ask any chemical dealer where containers are accepted in your area. Used carefully as a management tool for specific weed problems, herbicides continue to be an important part of roadside management. When it comes to broadcast treatments, fire has replaced herbicides as the recommended treatment for roadsides. Burning eliminates environmental risks associated with using chemical weed killers in roadsides. Fire destroys most woody plants and can be used to favor certain grasses and wildflowers over others. It removes the insulating cover of dry plants, allowing the sun to warm the blackened soil. This stimulates plant growth earlier in the spring. The warm soil also encourages soil microbes to become active sooner and with more enthusiasm. These microscopic organisms turn dead plants and animals into nutrients that can be used by plants. So fire is an indirect way to fertilize the roadside. Before you strike a match, you'll need to decide if weather conditions are safe. Ideal conditions are between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, with relative humidity between 30 and 60%. A steady breeze between 10 and 15 miles per hour blowing away from the road is best. It's hard to predict where fires will go on calm days, and hard to keep them under control on windy days. Pay attention to the weather forecast, and beware of fronts that could bring high or shifting winds. Some roadside managers wear special fireproof clothing, but good cotton work clothes and leather boots are the next best thing. Other equipment includes flappers to smother flames, rakes to move fuel in flames, and water tanks to douse flames. Well-rinsed backpack sprayers and wands from spray rigs are good substitutes for specialized fire equipment. A drip torch fueled with diesel will speed things up when you start lighting fires. You'll need plenty of help. The fire should be surrounded by people armed with water, rakes, flappers, or wet gunny sacks. Let your neighbors know what you're doing and invite them to help. Call utility companies to make sure there are no gas lines or cables in the area. Also, contact the local police and fire departments and the county roadside office. Burning along state and federal highways is prohibited unless you have written approval from the Iowa Department of Transportation. Start by establishing a fire break or fuel-free area around the burn. You can take advantage of the road on one side and often tilled fields on the other. Carefully burn the first 20 feet or more of the burn area on the downwind side. When this backfire is extinguished, position your help around the burn area and light the fire on the upwind side. If there's a lot of fuel, start the fire in the high parts of the roadside so it creeps down rather than raging up. Rake dry plants and other fuel about 5 feet away from fences, power poles, telephone junction boxes, and other burnables. Create a wet line by dousing the raked areas with water. You can't always predict changing wind conditions, so station vehicles, signs, or people where they can warn oncoming traffic. When the excitement is over, mop up by walking the burned area with water and flappers, dousing any hot spots. Stay long enough to be sure the whole fire is out. You'll need to decide when to burn to best meet your objectives. Spring burning is best for the prairie grasses, but most people burn too early. Wait until weeds and unwanted grasses are green and 6 to 8 inches tall. Most prairie plants remain dormant until early May. Late April and early May, around corn planting time, is usually the best time for prairie burns. Earlier burning can benefit roadsides dominated by smooth brome or other cool season grasses. For those who are busy in spring, fall burning is an alternative, but fall fires leave the soil exposed over the winter and spring, the most critical time for erosion. Roadside wildlife cover is eliminated by fall fires just when it is most valuable. Crops are gone and hunting season and winter are on the way. Don't burn in the fall unless there is plenty of wildlife cover in the area and the roadside is flat enough that erosion won't be a problem. Your county roadside manager can help you make decisions about when to burn. Some roadsides can't be rejuvenated by simply burning or spraying. They need to be replanted. Many county road departments have invested a great deal into roadside prairie planting. They have no-till native seed drills for planting the fluffy seeds of prairie plants and hydro seeders for hard-to-reach roadsides. They use power mulchers or erosion blankets to protect new seedings. They've made these investments because they've learned that the right start with the right plants will reduce costs in the long run. You can plant a prairie roadside without all this special equipment, however. Patience is essential. Successful prairie plantings take several years or more to establish. Prepare a good, firm, and weed-free seed bed and broadcast seeds evenly at about 80 seeds per square foot. This is a heavy rate, but most roadsides are steep and erosive. Many of the seeds will never become mature plants. Regular grain drills work for switchgrass, but if you're planting other prairie grasses or wildflowers, you'll need an agitator to keep the fluffy seed from bridging. Most roadside managers plant nurse crops, oats or annual rye, at around a bushel per acre. Native plants are slow to germinate, and the nurse crop will compete with weeds during the first year. Nurse crops should be mowed when they get tall enough to shade new seedlings. Mulch with straw at about 2 tons per acre and stitch the straw into the seed bed with a straw crimper or with a straight heavy disc. Mow if annual weeds get too thick, but don't worry if you don't see any tall prairie grasses in the first year. They may be there, but they're hard to recognize. A roadside manager can help you decide if your seeding is successful. Prairie plants live 80 years or more, but they're often in no hurry to get started. Your county roadside manager or the Iowa Department of Transportation has lists of seed dealers and can recommend seed mixtures for certain roadside situations. Integrated roadside vegetation management can drastically reduce time and money spent in caring for roadsides. But with 110,000 miles of roads and over 600,000 acres of roadsides, taking care of Iowa roadsides is an enormous task. An impossible task without cooperation and participation from the people that are taking care of the land. Almost everyone can help by encouraging healthy and diverse roadside plant communities and discouraging disturbances that lead to costly weed and erosion problems. Mowing, spraying, and burning can help develop healthy, diverse roadside plant communities. But these techniques must be used carefully. Each roadside management practice must be carefully considered and carried out with a specific purpose in mind. Outcomes must be anticipated. For more information on taking care of roadsides, contact your county roadside office, the Iowa Department of Transportation, or the County Roadside Assistance Office at the University of Northern Iowa.